Hey students, welcome back to Astronomy 101 and talking more about aliens. So there's a whole lot of different questions that people have asked, and so there's not like the last class there's a couple of things that everyone asked about, whereas this class there's a variety of things that people have asked about. Probably the biggest thing that people have talked about is the whole question of technology, especially the Apollo missions, the Concorde, and the like. All right. Like, why have we not gone back to the moon? For example, why has no country gone back to the moon? And this is a difficult question. Not a difficult question to answer in terms of just the facts of it, but in terms of what our views are versus what reality is. Okay, so our views are that technology is improving all the time, and in a way it is. Okay, there are things. For example, LED light bulbs are great. Okay, they are a major improvement over the older style incandescent bulbs that Thomas Edison invented. We have our phones, which do a lot of things. Okay, but an LED light bulb is still a light bulb. Okay, and your phones, they're not magic. Okay, they're a combination of very old technology, old, as in not old as in thousands of years, but old as in back into the 19th century. Understand they are. What is a phone? A phone is a radio, it's a computer, it's a camera, a few other things, but those are technologies that have been around for some time. Okay, now it's really cool that you take them all and miniaturize them down into something, and that's nice, but it's not really something new. Okay, like a light bulb was in the first place. So no light bulb, in other words, you have candles and stuff like that, and then you have electric lights where you flip a switch and boom, light bulb. That's a change there's not the same kind of change in going from an electric light bulb like Thomas Edison went to an LED bulb, where an LED bulb is cheaper to use, it lasts longer, stuff like that. It's not the kind of difference it is as going from a candle to a light bulb. So what we have found so we hear this about technology, but the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of areas of technology where we have sort of plateaued, or where technology is making things maybe cheaper and more, easier to use, but they're not really different. A big example I like to talk about with this is in automobiles. Automobiles aren't getting faster. Okay, they're not getting faster. Now, recently there was a new world record, and I have this in the book, but I'm going to show some pictures. The new world record set by a car on a public highway, and that's by this car. Okay, the Koenigsegg, fast car. So it managed to maintain a speed of like 278 miles per hour. Going two different directions on that stretch of highway. Awesome, really fast. And I remember, and I thought, wow, we're starting to make some new records in automobile technology. 1930s. That's the previous record holder right there. Okay. It went like 265 miles an hour. Okay, really fast. So from 1938 or something to 2018, you gain 10 miles an hour. We haven't been able to figure out how to make automobiles that travel at 200 miles an hour safely on highways, okay, over the past 50 to 60 to 70 years. 50 years ago, if you were in a car going 100 miles an hour on a highway, you were going really fast. Today, if you're in a car going 100 miles an hour on a highway, you're going really fast, okay? That we've not had improvement in that technology. And so the same thing goes down to these things, the Apollo, the Concorde. We figure out how to build stuff that will go really fast. We can build cars that will do 500 miles an hour on a highway. This guy is not the only record holder. This is just that for a public highway, as opposed to, you know, some flat place out in the desert where they just drive a car really fast. But they've had cars that have gone, you know, even faster than this or this. But it's not practical. Okay, it's expensive, it's dangerous, and so on and so forth. So we don't drive cars that go hundreds of miles an hour. So yeah, we did that, but we haven't ever made anything with it. Same thing for these. Okay, we went to the moon. Why? Because the United States, basically because the United States had been trounced by the Soviet Union in getting into space. The Soviets had gotten the first satellite into space. They got the first living creature into space. They got the first person into space. And the United States became highly motivated to show that it could do stuff in space. And we went to the moon. But it was really expensive. It was dangerous. There was 3 guys who were killed in the Apollo 1 mission. It was a test run, and 3 people died in it. And Apollo 13, something blew up, and the people made it back, but they thought maybe they wouldn't. We've had a couple losses in the space shuttle. Is a dangerous, expensive thing to do, and it becomes difficult to justify doing it. So, you know, I mean, we don't do it. But it's not just Apollo. It's Apollo. It's Concorde. It's a whole bunch of travel technology where maybe we can push the limits, and we've been able to do certain things. We've been able to make stuff that will go really fast, all right? But that doesn't translate into something you can do on a regular basis. And that's the way it's going with Apollo, and that's how it went with Concorde. There's a great video on the Concorde that I have in the supplemental stuff, and maybe if I remember, I'll tack it to the end of this because I really encourage you to watch it. It's about the Concorde and everything that it could do and how it eventually went away. Okay, and that is sort of the answer for Apollo. But the short answer to this question is that the story that you think you know about technology is not. That's a marketing story. That's a media story. That's a thing you've been told for a variety of reasons. But it's not something that scientists would look at and say this is real. Scientists would look at Apollo and say, this is what we did. We did this for this reason. We pushed the technological limits. We were able to do it, but we can't sustain it, and so we're not doing it anymore. Right? So that's the idea behind the Apollo and the Concorde missions. The Apollo missions and the Concorde plane and the SR-71 and a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay. So next question that perhaps a lot of people talked about is, well, what about UFO sightings? Area 51 and crop circles and all that kind of stuff. All right. So let's say a few things about UFO sightings. First of all, a UFO is not necessarily a space alien. Okay, a UFO is simply a thing that flies that we don't know what it is, all right, that people see. Here's the most simple example I can give. Probably a lot of UFO sightings are real, okay, by which I mean people see things that people are flying that are not identified for a variety of reasons. Let's look at one simple example. Suppose that maybe 30 years ago or so, you are used to seeing airplanes, okay? And you think that's an airplane there, okay? That's what an airplane looks like. You see that? That's what an airplane looks like, okay? Airplane, airplane. Now, the United States starting in the 70s or so, started developing stealth aircraft. Stealth aircraft look strange, okay? Like this. Now, now you can go to Thunder over Louisville and you can see this. This is the B-2 stealth bomber. All right? You can see this at Thunder over Louisville. You can go to air shows. You can go to places to see this. But when that was being developed, it had to be tested, right? Somebody had to test fly this thing, okay, as they developed it. Well, you know, they didn't announce, because this was a secret project, they didn't announce to people, oh, we're going to fly this mysterious plane. No, okay, they flew it, and surely some people were going to see it. And if you were used to seeing this, and you were used to seeing this, and then you saw that flying through the sky, what do you think that people would have thought? They would have looked up and seen this and thought they were seeing space aliens, okay? A UFO, especially if they're seeing it in a distance, okay? Especially if it's kind of in the dark. And this is not the only weird-looking aircraft that the United States has ever made. Then on top of that, you have the fact that, you know, the United States flies spy missions over other countries. Now, mostly they use satellites now, but they used to use airplanes. Do you think that it is not possible that the Chinese or the Russians have developed craft that are capable of, you know, slipping through U.S. airspace? I'm not saying they have. I'm not saying they haven't. What I'm saying is that when we get to Occam's razor, this is the aliens, this is the elves and the Coke machines, okay? Is the Coke machine a mechanical device, or is it an outpost for evil elves? You can't prove one way or another. One student said, hey, I've worked on one of these Coke machines. I know they're not outposts for evil elves. And I responded, in email, I said, bogus. You just worked on one of the decoys that the elves wanted you to know about, and they fooled you, okay? And they're dirty human elf conspirators who are taking that dirty elf money and selling out the human race. They were in on it, okay? You can't argue with logic like that, right? So, you know, you cannot prove that the Coke machine theory of elves is wrong. Okay. Likewise, we can't prove that every UFO sighting has been people seeing something like this, or a hoax, or they were on drugs, or they have mental problems, or some other things. I mean, people see all kinds of stuff, right? People claim, you know, that they've seen a picture, you know, that Jesus appeared to them in a pizza, all right? And we don't take that seriously. So, you know, but we give credit because someone says, oh, I was abducted by aliens. Oh, yeah. Oh, really? They were abducted by aliens. Okay. If Jesus didn't appear to them in a pizza, why do you believe, if you don't believe that, why do you believe they're abducted by aliens? But nonetheless, we have this idea that aliens are something plausible or credible to that. And of course, we can't prove it wrong, just like we can't prove the Coke machine's wrong. You can't prove that Santa Claus is not wrong. One student wrote in her comments that, you know, you can't prove there's no Santa Claus. And that's absolutely true. You cannot prove there is no Santa Claus. The only thing you can prove is that Santa Claus didn't bring you any presents. That's right. You know, you can sit there and you can set up video camera and you can hang out and you can see that Santa doesn't show up at your house. And all that means is that you weren't good enough for Santa to bring presents to, okay? Maybe the quality of goodness is really, really high, and Santa doesn't actually bring presents to all, well, he does bring presents to all the good little boys and girls in the world. There's just not that many of them, okay? And so you weren't one of them. You cannot prove there's no Santa Claus. These things are extremely difficult to deal with, but that's the thing on UFOs. There are no scientifically validated UFO sightings, photos, or any other evidence that anybody in the scientific world considers to be particularly persuasive. It's all a bunch of cuckoo stuff for the most part. There are some sort of difficult to explain things, but they're probably seeing either, you know, some sort of experimental aircraft, some sort of, other military secret, some country flying things over our country that are, nobody who does know about them. The government, we want to say, oh yeah, the Chinese, they're flying unmanned drones over the United States, and there's nothing we can do about it because we can't catch them. No, again, I'm not saying any of these things are correct. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of other explanations for these various things here, and we have no hard scientific quality evidence for any of this stuff. All right.